We begin this Acrolein Safety Awareness training with a review of safety information for Acrolein products contained in the SDS, or the Safety Data Sheet. Let's review the physical and chemical properties of Acrolein by reviewing the SDS for Magnesite B microbiocide. Acrolein is a clear, colorless liquid which is water-soluble up to 22% by weight and completely soluble in hydrocarbon fluids. Acrolein has a piercing, pungent odor. Because of its odor, all Acrolein applications are made using a closed delivery system, which allows the chemical to be applied without exposing personnel or the environment. Our air monitoring procedure confirms the effective performance of these closed delivery systems. And it is important to note that the Acrolein in the container is a liquid, not a compressed gas. Like gasoline, Acrolein is volatile and as such evaporates rather quickly when released into the air. Acrolein has a vapor density of 1.93. Vapor density is a relative property comparing the weight of a chemical's vapor to that of air. Because Acrolein vapors are almost twice as heavy as air, Acrolein vapors would tend to settle in low-lying areas in still atmospheric conditions. Acrolein is highly flammable, having a flash point of -13 degrees Fahrenheit or -25 degrees Celsius. The lower and upper explosive limits of Acrolein vapor in the air are 2.8% and 31%. This means that even though Acrolein is highly flammable, it can't ignite unless its concentration in the air is between 2.8% and 31%. Acrolein vapors are irritating to the eyes and respiratory systems. Acrolein acts as a lacrimator, which makes your eyes tear. Always wear the proper respiratory protection. Although both H2S and Acrolein can be toxic in high concentrations, there's an important difference. Unlike H2S, Acrolein will not impair your sense of smell. Increasing levels of Acrolein vapor in air will result in higher levels of irritation. You can detect the Acrolein odor at 0.1 parts per million or less in the air. This 0.1 ppm concentration is lower than a level that will cause harm. The permissible exposure limit, or PEL, for Acrolein is set by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, and is set at the same low level of 0.1 ppm over an 8-hour workday. Compare this to the lower explosive limit, which is 2.8% or 28,000 ppm. You can't be in the flammable range of Acrolein without knowing it. In the SDS, you will find a section with toxicological information about Acrolein. Toxicity is defined as the inherent potential or capacity of a material to cause adverse effects in a living organism. Toxicity can be broken down into different categories: acute or chronic. Acute is defined as occurring over a short period of time, used to describe brief exposures and effects which appear promptly after exposure. Chronic is defined as occurring over a long period of time, either continuously or intermittently, used to describe ongoing exposures and effects that develop only after a long-term exposure. Acrolein is classified as acutely toxic because of the eye and respiratory irritation. The second category of toxicity we defined is chronic or long-term. BHGE has used independent laboratories to conduct long-term studies on Acrolein at low concentrations. These studies show that Acrolein does not affect reproductive systems, does not cause cancer or tumors, nor does it affect a developing embryo or fetus. Please refer to the product SDS for additional information. Now let's discuss first aid measures. In case of eye contact with Acrolein, flush the eyes immediately with large amounts of water for at least 15 minutes. Seek medical attention immediately. In case of skin contact or if spilled on the skin, wash the skin thoroughly with large amounts of water and treat the exposed area as a chemical burn. If Acrolein is inhaled, get to fresh air. Ensure that first responders are wearing the appropriate protective equipment, which includes an SCBA and not a respirator. Immediately move the victim to fresh air out of the exposure area and start CPR if the victim has stopped breathing. If Acrolein is swallowed, do not induce vomiting. Promptly drink 1 to 2 glasses of water. As with any chemical exposure, seek medical attention immediately and report the incident to your supervisor.